that. How are you? Thank you for coming on this show.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Of course, of course. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I just started a 3-song set. So after that's done, um, usually I do this at the top of the hour, but I end up talking more than I remembered I thought I would, and now we're here. So we're gonna talk about the calendar of shows coming up, and I figured we could kind of use that talk break to talk about the show at the Cedar, and just kind of talk that up, talk about who's on the bill with you, and why you're at the Cedar, because it seems like a cool show and kind of a good time to talk about it. But as far as this goes, it's just kind of like a podcast, just kind of like what happens. But if there is anything specific, like, hey, by the by, next month we're doing this, or next week, or any kind of like things you're working on that you feel comfortable sharing, because I also know that anxiety of just like, yeah, I hope to release this year, but it's not done, and now there's like a new timeline we have to like commit to, because I just said it publicly, and that's really anxiety inducing. So I don't want to do that. But if there is anything, just let me know, because we can just talk about it whenever.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Okay. So first things first, so did you start this project in Washington, or did you already know each other in Washington? We're like, hey, I'm moving to Minneapolis, you're moving to Minneapolis. When did like the musical journey begin? Is this a bi-coastal project at this point, or is it, because I know you all have been around for like in town for a few years at least.
It's a good question. We both grew up in Washington and met each other there and started Bad Posture Club there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and then we both moved to Minneapolis like 4 years ago now.
In 2018?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Do you still keep in touch with the West Coast scene at all? I know things have been kind of difficult travel-wise my friend Whitney Streeter likes to refer to, instead of the last 2 years, it's like, oh yeah, the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Because it has been weird. And a lot of people have been moving. I know, like, I came from Philly, but it's weird to say I came from Philly, because like everyone I know in Philly doesn't even live in Philly anymore. Like, there's some people, but like it's like the scene's landscape has completely changed, and I couldn't even say like, oh yeah, here's who who should you talk to anymore? It's like, because it's hard.
Yeah, we feel that. We're also from a small town, a college town called Bellingham, and
oh yeah,
you've heard of it?
Yeah, I've actually heard of it. I think I've heard of it mainly from music stuff, and I don't know what's there as much as I've heard of bands playing there before.
Yeah, it's definitely like a town you would pass through if you're going like from Seattle to Vancouver. It's in between.
Yeah.
It's a sweet little town, and there are musicians there that are great.
Yeah. We have gone usually once a year, if not more. Both our families still live there.
Yeah.
And
oh, sure.
We have friends there, and some people in my family are musicians, so
oh, cool.
I feel like we still are connected to people who play music there.
Yeah.
Did y'all go to college there, or is it just a college town that happens to be there?
Just a college town. Western Washington University is there, but neither of us went to school there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've always been intrigued by that part of the country, because it's like the part of the country I've spent the least time in. Like, anytime I'm on the West Coast, I'm always there for, it's just like, well, we're here, and then we gotta catch a flight in Seattle, and then we're going. It's like I don't really spend much time there, but like I love everything about it. Like, the landscape is just something I just want to spend more time in.
Yeah.
And the music scene, like everything, and all genres, but like everything I keep hearing coming out of there is just good. So it's just like, well, I just kind of want to spend time there and play some shows, and I've never really been other than airports, and that doesn't count.
Yeah, it's super, super beautiful if you ever have time to spend. There's like the Cascades Mountain Range there's just so much to do hiking wise, and yeah, a lot of really good bands in like Anacortes area and kind of along that coastline.
I think in some ways it's kind of similar to how having winter here, I feel like people really like hunker down and hibernate and often make a lot of art. And
yes,
it's so rainy there for a lot of the year that I think there may be a similar kind of thing that happens where you're not that you can't. I mean, it is nice you can still go outside because it's not freezing and there's always like greenery and that's really special. But there is like this sort of cozy, like, I think I'll just stay inside and work on music.
Yeah. And then once you kind of get rolling on something, you almost kind of look forward to those days where you get to stay in.
Right.
There is an element of like, you kind of have to lean into the winter a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to go insane. Of just, oh, sorry, it's just like the end of the song. I'm trying to keep the music in the background low because they keep trying to kick us off YouTube. We always get put back on, but like it's like this whole thing where it's like once you get kicked off, it's like, yeah, it gets put back on later, but like when people look for it, they're like, oh, it's not there, and then it's just like a few days later it's just like, no, it's you know what, never mind. Well, it's just annoying because like I don't get what the algorithm gods are looking for anymore. It just seems like they're just flagging everything. Like I did a let's play for like this band I'm in, just like, oh yeah, I played guitar on this record, let's play my guitar part, and I got flagged for it. They kicked me off and they're just like, yeah, this is like, yeah, you don't own that song, this is a song by LPF. And I'm just like, okay, if you look at my bio, it says like guitarist for the band LPF. Like, if I'm not allowed to do this, what am I allowed to do? And they've been kicking us off a lot lately, and sometimes when there's a big crescendo, all I hear is in my headphones, and I'm like, what am I doing? What did I break this time? That's the fun thing about live community radio. So speaking of that, there's one more song on this set, and my AED brain will probably take us a lot of different places, but after this song, we're going to do the calendar thing. And then I do want to talk about your most recent record, because that was like 2021, yeah?
Yeah, it came out about a year ago.
Yeah, definitely want to talk about that, unless you have anything that you have been working on where it's just like, yeah, that's great if we want to talk about, can we talk about this first? Please interrupt me and we can plug that. Also, I don't know how much time you have because we have until noon. Feel free to say the whole time, or if you are on a crunch for time, just let me know and then I can be a little bit more concise and like just kind of, all right, well, I definitely want to talk about this. And so, yeah, just let me know. It's really free form around here.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think we have another project that right now that we're like ready to talk about.
Mostly we're just trying to plug shows. So yeah.
It seems like you have a lot on the books past this Cedar show too.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk about just like it's because touring last year was weird.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people have records that they kind of wanted to show off, and they kind of were taking a more conservative approach to like playing shows last year. Some people played a lot, but it was mainly like solos and duos. And I think now like full bands are coming out. Did you get to play out much, or did you focus mainly making that record?
Mostly we focused on the record. I think once summer hit last year, we did play some outside shows. We played like a CD release show, which felt really good.
In our friend's backyard.
Yeah.
That was great. But we hadn't, in the fall, not the fall, like in the spring, we hadn't booked any shows. So by the time it was summer, we were like, oh, I guess people are playing shows, but we didn't, it just felt like too weird to try and book anything with the right time. So we didn't play a whole lot last summer. Yeah, it feels like we're really kind of just getting back into it in 2022.
There was also like a weird like peer pressure Like once people started playing shows where it's just like, wait, should we be doing that? Are you doing it? I don't know if I want to. Like, it's like there was like a weird thing. And then like people were, because I remember having conversations where people were like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do much. And then you see like, and I was one of those people too, because like I just started accepting offers because like playing shows was going out of style. Because like I felt like it kind of was like, I didn't know if it was just like, all right, we had this summer and then that's it. But I did notice there were like, it was like a weird arms race of just like, well, I got to get working on my thing. Like if everyone else is doing it, and it's just, so now I don't know. I'm trying to just do a reasonable amount, like once a week. Cause last summer I don't know. I'm getting more old than I would like to admit. I think that's the reality of being 35. You just, yeah, touring like a 20 something is not is not something you're gonna do 365. And I'm trying to accept that as I drink my tea instead of coffee, which is another thing I really, really miss.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Yeah, and it's I think for me, the live performance is just so much part of it, or at least part of the fun. Where I think like some artists were just like, well, yeah, we have this record and we're proud of it, but like part of this whole experience is like we really want you to come see this performance.
Yeah.
And like be kind of like there's something to the intimate nature of just like, hey, it's just us in this atmosphere, and like creating like a listening room, I feel like is like really important to like part of what, I don't know, like I like that fourth wall. I think it's like part of the canvas, not just like the audio recording, like having that like old school vaudevillian aspect of it, of just like, yeah, you do have a record, but you also kind of have to have an act. See, like what's your, you know, like let's go do 15.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that that is back. Are you going to try to do more outdoor shows or indoor shows now that things are just kind of, everyone's doing it at this point?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a couple outdoor things booked and a couple festivals, which is nice. I think at least one of them will be mostly outside. And at this point, it's sort of like, oh, we also have another backyard show. I mean, it's summer, so it's so nice to be outside, but I feel like we're also like taking what comes to us and like grateful to be, you know, offered to participate and be on bills and stuff. And we usually still wear our masks inside.
Yeah.
I also nanny.
I do too.
She just got her first shot.
Speaking of shows, I'm going to read a calendar real quick. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, Black Country, New Road off of their new record. We also had New Madison Cunningham, Hospital, the new single off of her new record, and Karen Dalton at the top of that set. If you have been following on social media, you already know I've been talking with Bad Posture Club. I have been making a mixtape for Bad Posture Club, and we're going to talk about their show at the Cedar Cultural Center. But first, I'm going to talk about shows going on this week and beyond. So tonight, Palmer's is doing a songwriter showcase featuring Jack Klatt, Cole Diamond, Tim Evanson, and Max Markin at 7 p.m. And then later tonight, Catfish Troy Band, Tang and the Tabs, Chandler and Druzy Rose is at Mortimer's. Thursday, Deerhoof and Lunch Touches at the Fine Line. Also, this is Bad Posture Club's show. Want to talk more? I'll let them explain it after I finish this, but Sprig of That and the Boston Imposters are going to be joining them at the Cedar Cultural Center. Let's talk about the rest of the weekend, because we have some interesting release shows coming up, including on Friday at the Cedar Cultural Center, Keep for Cheap, Bugsy, and Early Eyes, Keep for Cheap's release show at the Cedar. Green Blue release featuring Scrunchies and Citric Dummies at Palmer's. That is also that night. And then we have a noise party featuring Alan Sparhawk of Low, Martin Dosh, I Once Knew a Ghost, as well as Lady Midnight, Brock, Ajab, and IOSIS. This is all in Mortimer's on Friday. Saturday, Colin Bracewell is at the 7th Street entry again, and Undercurrent Minneapolis. This is the 11th year fartiversary, their words, not mine. This is the fartiversary party featuring worldwide basement vibes as live video art. And we have a bunch of local bands featured on Undercurrent several times, but also some newcomers, Boobless, Din Din, Earth, Serious Machine, Prismatic Spray, Fletcher Cooley, Close Talker, Blue Driver Products, Liquid Lunch, Allergen, Butterboys, Another Heaven, and Alien Book Club. That is all Saturday. And then Sundays, Dusty's Days. So this is going to be at Dusty's Bar at the Big Green Booth. The Riff and Trio, Run Westy Run, Monica LaPlante, Low Rats, King Custom and the Cruisers, Detroit Don King, the Bill Patton Trio, Michael Gay, the Beavers, Becky Capel and the Fat Six, Ben Cook Feltz, and DJ Cutthroat in between all the sets. If you're looking for my next show, they're all on the road, but my band LPF is going to be playing their first Minnesota show in 3.5 years, 4 years. Is that even true? But yeah, at the 7th Street entry is August 5th. That is my next show with LPF. And I'm really excited for that one. So think I missed something, or you just want to hear me mispronounce your band name on the air, email it to desertislandskfai@gmail.com. I curate this whole segment from the stuff you send me. I know you hit me up on social media. Please keep doing that. It's just, I definitely will check the email. Sometimes I will check my messages and I'll see all these events that I would have loved to plug, but I see them after the show and it, time moves on. So if you want to hear me talk about something, email it to desertislandskfai@gmail.com. That's all one word. And yeah, send me stuff. Keep sending me things. Okay, so speaking of things going on this week, I know there's a lot, but one of the things I mentioned was this show at the Cedar tomorrow night with so you're playing with Sprig of That, who they're amazing, but the Boston Imposters I'm not too familiar with. Are they actually from Boston, or is this like just a name?
I think the story behind their name is that they either moved to Boston or were in Boston and like really missed the Midwest. I think that's what I've heard them talk about. We met them at this funny duo competition at the Minnesota State Fair through Mabatma.
Oh, I love it.
So that's how we first heard their music, and they do really lovely, like, I think they do a lot of traditional, like, old time music, and then they also do their own, like, originals, but very much in that style. So they also have a lot of really lovely harmonies.
Yeah. So how did this bill come together? Because Sprig of That is amazing. And so all three of you are playing at the Cedar at 7 p.m. Is that when music starts, or when the doors open?
That's when doors open. Music will start the evening off at 7:30. I think Sprig of That put together this show because they were doing, it sounds like they've kind of moved outside of Minneapolis and wanted to do a little tour through the Midwest. So
nice.
One of the stops is the Cedar, and they wanted it to be kind of a folk evening. We feel really lucky to be included on that bill.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I know they've been working really hard on a new record, so I don't know if we'll get to hear any of those new songs, but yeah, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't heard Sprig of That, you're in for a treat. If you haven't heard Bad Posture Club, you're also in for a treat. So once again, thank you for coming on the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes based on my guests' 10 records they would bring to a desert island. And today I'm making one for Bad Posture Club. And I'm really glad you included Sufjan Stevens on the list, because if you didn't, I totally would, just based off of the record you put out last year, and it just gave me strong Sufjan vibes.
Wow.
Because I don't know, I loved Sufjan I was obsessed with the 50 States project, and just like it really gave me just like the rhythmic and the harmony spacing. So if that sounds like something you're into, and if you like what you heard so far, you can hear it again tomorrow at the Cedar Cultural Center. And this whole mixtape so far has been curated in part by Bad Pastor Club's 10 records they would bring to a desert island. Of course, I've played some new records that came out this year that I thought would fit in. But since we've been talking about Bad Pastor Club, let's actually listen to Bad Pastor Club. This is off a record you put out last year. This is a track called Prairie Flower. I'd love to talk about this record, but why don't we just listen to it first? And if you want to play along at home, you can follow us on Facebook or YouTube. But please, if you're in the car, just don't do that when you're driving. Listen to that later. It'll get archived. But for now, here is Prairie Flower off of A Place Between by Bad Pastor Club here on KFAI. Okay, I'm going to make sure I type your name into the computer so you get credit for me playing this right now.
Cool.
But I'm going... Okay, there we go. There we go. So yeah, after... I didn't realize Sprig of That moved out. Like, are they just in greater Minnesota, or are they moving out of the... I had no idea that they moved. Are they just like gone, or are they still regionally at the...
I don't know. I also don't know that all of them.
Yeah.
I think that there's been like a spreading out, but I don't know if they've all permanently left or if they're just working on different projects. But it sounds like they are not all in the same place at the same time, typically, right now. So hopefully we'll hear more about what they've been up to, like as a group and also as individuals when we see them tomorrow.
Yeah. They're a great... I got to play with them something in Winona. I can't remember what it was, but like they're just one of my favorite live acts to see, just because they have so many unique textures. I don't think I've ever seen a band with that instrumentation before.
Yeah.
And also tablas are just fascinating to me. Like I've never even tried to play them, and I don't know if I would be doing it right. Like I feel like there's like a whole school of thought you need to enter into before you even touch those things, and then get into the technique is like a whole different journey on its own. So just like watching anyone play tablas is just kind of hypnotic to me. But also just instrumentally, all of them are fantastic players.
Yeah.
Are you going to be following them on tour? Is it just this stop in town?
Yeah, just this one stop.
Yeah.
So what do you have coming up next?
We're also doing a really sweet backyard show through, I don't know if you've heard of the Red House concerts.
Yeah, those are really cool.
Yeah, I think they started last summer. I went to one of their first ones, and then we got invited to do one this Saturday with the Nunnery, so we're really stoked.
Oh, the Nunnery is awesome. Yeah. That's gonna be cool.
And then the next show we're playing is in Eau Claire.
Also with the Nunnery.
Yeah.
Where in Eau Claire? Because like I feel like the last time I played Eau Claire, I don't even think that venue exists anymore. I don't remember. Have you ever heard of the House of Rock? I don't know if you're familiar with Eau Claire at all. That place is gone.
Okay. It's in Jerica Miguel's backyard. Do you know Jerica?
Oh, okay.
Singer-songwriter.
No. Because there's a really great scene of musicians out there. Like there's like it's a surprising amount of talent comes out of Eau Claire. Like it's kind of amazing. So I'm glad that there's still a DIY scene out there, because I have no idea what is still active. Like I know there's a lot of bands who straddle both cities, where it's like they live here but they were from Eau Claire, but they keep, anytime they like do a release show, there's always like a satellite one in Eau Claire.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad that there's a backyard scene, because that's always fun. But like So are you doing much more? Are you sticking mainly with backyard shows for the outdoor things?
I gotta look at the calendar. Remember what we're even doing.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, yeah, I feel like actually there is a lot of outdoor stuff. In August, looking all the way to August, on the 21st, we're gonna play the patio or the courtyard of Ice House with our friend
Cool.
Alec Watson, whose band is called DPCD. And if you like Sufjan, yeah, his music is similar to Sufjan's in some ways, especially to the Carrie and Lowell album, which is the one that we put on our desert island list. So yeah, he's a good friend and an amazing songwriter. So that'll be really fun. Also, outdoor summer night show.
It's a really cool patio. I feel like Ice House does a really good job of like curating those shows, of just like getting these great bills for like yeah, that'll be what was the date on that?
That's August 21st.
August 21st. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Okay, so after this is going to be local music, and just kind of like stuff not on your desert island picks. There just kind of always happens that I try to get some local stuff, but there happen to be like 3 release shows this weekend. So there's going to be all Minnesota artists releasing records. And then the next talk break will be coming up. I'd like to talk about the 2021 record. And then we'll probably like retread on some of like the calendar stuff of just like, it's usually a good idea to say those dates a few times, several times, just because like audio, it's just so easy to like say it once and then it's gone. So I will probably be asking you to mention those dates a few different times. But also, I know for a fact that there's a whole audience of people that like watches these videos and has never listened to the radio once. They've never like listened to the show ever. And then there's like a whole group of people who know about the radio show, but they don't bother with the video stuff. Either they're like vehemently against social media, which I get, like no, or they're just, they don't, that's just not something they're interested in, I guess. So different audiences, I there might be a few things I might like ask repeat questions. If that's awkward, just warning you now.
No worries.
But other than that, there's just like some basic like who, what, where, whys I want to make sure get spoken on the air. But if there's anything specific, like on the record, if there's anyone that you worked with where it's like, oh, I just want to mention, we make sure we mention this, please do. I'm going to keep it fairly open-ended for that.
Great.
But yeah, that's going to be in like 5 minutes though, because this Keep for Cheap song is about 4 minutes long, and this one has about 1 minute left. So trying to give us as much time as possible so I don't end up like cutting us off again.
Sure.
But in the meantime, there are some underwriting breaks that I have to play, just so I don't make sure they like get stacked up and then I have to cut off things again. So we might be coming back on the air. Let's see. Let's do the math. 6 minutes?
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good. It's a lot to keep track of.
It is. I would turn the camera and there's like, I'm actually looking at 4 different screens right now, which is super, I don't know. It's it plays well with like ADHD, because I feel
was
like
gonna say, you might be kind of made for this job.
yeah, it's kind of like it helps, because like if I kind of have one thing, sometimes like I will get off topic in a conversation and then I forget I'm actually supposed to be doing something. Where this, like, if I kind of have to do something every 30 seconds, it keeps me honest. But it can kind of be a drag for conversation, because sometimes we will get like on a thread, and then I have to make sure something gets said or something gets done, and then I completely forget what we're talking about, and then I feel guilty because I'm just like, oh yeah, I totally cut off that entire thing, and I wasn't trying to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And once it gets like too far gone into like these things, it like I just genuinely forget what we're talking about. So like if there is something, it's usually not consequential though. Like actual interview things where it's like, hey, we were talking about, it's like usually like, oh, we start talking about 90s cartoon shows and how they this random thread that, like, while it's interesting, it's not exactly what you came on the radio to talk about. That's the kind of the drawback for me. But heck, if there are 90s cartoons you want to talk about on the air, be my guest, as long as it's FCC friendly. we can do that. But I want to make sure we plug the record and the shows. Everything else is just kind of like whatever comes up. I do have like prepared questions for the talk breaks, but if some of those things already get answered with other questions, they might not come up at all. But yeah, one thing I was curious about was, as far as the Desert Islands list, was this like a true 50-50? Like one got 5 and the other got 5? Or was it more of just like, well, we both have this, so we need a record from this artist? Or was it just like, all right, done, we like 5 each? And
yeah, I think that's a good question. And at first there were records that Morgan, like an Indigo Girls album or two that Morgan grew up with, but I did not. And we were like, should we include it? And then we were like, oh, but it's the Desert Island. Like, it's something that we're kind of into now that we want to, that we won't get sick of, basically. And then I think we agreed on pretty much all the albums.
I mean, we have a lot of overlap
Yeah.
in the things that are, important to us musically. And
yeah.
So I don't think there's anything on there that's like, oh, that's just for Marin to listen to on the desert island. Like, I don't want to hear that. It's, yeah.
What was the first record you two had in common? Like, was it like, did the taste build the songwriting style, or were you already kind of like, well, I kind of like this, I kind of like this. Hey, me too. Let's start like, what was the first thing you noticed you had in common?
Like way back in the day when we just.
Yeah.
Maybe Innocence Mission?
Yeah, maybe Innocence Mission.
Ooh, okay. We started with that in the first set.
Yeah. Have you heard of that band before?
Yes, actually. I only from not that record though. I kind of a lot of the times I recognize album covers, and I remember liking one of their most recent records, and I was like, oh yeah, but that album wasn't the one where it's like, oh, I don't recognize that album cover. But I had heard that band.
They're so good.
And they've been around a long time.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. And I feel like they come through every couple of years. And so the Innocence Mission was what? Was that like something you both had in common? Well, tell you what, we can talk about this once we get back on the air, because this thing is about to end. 5 seconds. And you're tuned into Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes based on my guests, 10 records they would bring to a desert island. We heard local music by Keep for Cheap off of their new one, The Watermelon Slush, Minnesota Man, and Bad Posture Club, who today's mixtape is for. And we were kind of, if you're following the off-mic conversation, I'm actually speaking with Bad Posture Club right now. And we were kind of talking about the Desert Island lists of just like, what was the first record that came into your life? And it's fitting that it was the Innocence Mission, because that was the one of the records we played, like the first set of this show 90 minutes ago. So what was the record or artist that made it click like, oh, that's something I could do? Because I feel like there's a lot of records that come into my life where it's like, oh, this is why I love music. This is why I need music. But I don't think John Coltrane's A Love Supreme made me believe I could play music as much as I knew I liked it. Was there an artist or record that's on this list that made it go, oh, wait a minute, this is what we have to do. We have to start a band.
I feel like Karen Paris from the Innocence Mission is someone that helps me feel that way, because her music is so simple. Yeah. And yet it has this way of sort of grabbing you and being like, this simplicity can sound so good and so sort of like pure, or I don't know, just like completely relatable.
Yes, it's very honest.
Yeah, yes. She has a true beauty with this, just the way her lyrics sort of flow, and she's just talking about everyday things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think also like, you know, when you get into a band and then you start researching them and like looking for everything you can find on them, and I remember doing that, and Karen Paris is like, at least presents like a very shy person. Mm-hmm. Like they hardly tour, or they haven't since like the 90s, and their like public appearances are very rare, and when you watch interviews with her, she's very like shy and doesn't have like a loud voice, and I think both of us identified as being shy people and kind of wondering like, can we actually be musicians? Can we actually be performers who are like up in front of people and like sort of commanding a space? And so I feel like she empowered me, because she is such a fantastic songwriter and musician, and she doesn't have like a really loud personality that, you know, or a really loud like performance kind of style. And I really appreciate that about her.
Yeah.
So when did you decide, so you formed this group on the West Coast in Washington. When did you decide to move to Minneapolis? And how did that process start? Because I as someone who's also a transplant, I get this question all the time, like, why Minneapolis? And I always think I have a good answer, but like, it's always like a blur of so many different events that led me to Minneapolis that it's like hard to explain, that you end up just going, college. I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, for me especially, it was quite random. Like, I wanted to leave my hometown. It's a small town, and Morgan and I had just taken a huge road trip around the country, kind of looking for the next place to live, but realized it's quite hard to actually choose where you're going to live when you're in kind of the travel mindset. So
yeah, because you kind of fall in love with everything.
Yeah, it's true.
Everything is so like, I don't know. For me, I wanted to move to like a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, and would always be really seduced by like, I would be like, oh, there's like a diner with a help wanted sign, and I could just work there, and we could, I don't know, just these like,
no, don't do it.
But it's just total like fantasy, because you don't know anything about the place really.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't know anybody in that town, if you're just like a stranger. So we got home and we were like,
where do we move again?
Yeah.
The closest cities were Portland and Seattle, and at the time in 2018, and still they're so expensive, we couldn't afford moving there. So honestly, affordability was a huge thing, and also like, where's the queer community? Where's like a bigger city with more diversity that's not like LA or New York that's huge, you know?
Yeah, and I do love those cities, but I feel like my love affair with those cities is kind of prolonged by the fact that I get to be a guest who's invited to those cities day in and day out is not a reality for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like overlook the flaws, and I can totally see myself moving to New York and then just becoming that person who's always late all the time. Come on, get out of the way. Like
Yeah.
just sucked right back into that
Yeah.
flow. And I also had that fantasy of like, oh, I want to move to the coastal. Like it's I think this is why I love Duluth so much, because there's like there's an allure to that. Yes, the remote location by the coast.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can disappear, but I can also be seen if I wanted to. It's mainly just quiet contemplation. It's just that there is something to that.
Yeah.
But traveling, I think, kind of makes me fall in love with everywhere. I think that's a good thing. I think more people should just get out and just you don't have to see or do things and be a tourist. Sometimes just being, literally just being somewhere else and just taking it in. You can just look at a river. It's enough to take you out of whatever you were in. If you and I think that perspective is needed sometimes. So speaking of traveling, I know we talked about this off mic, but other than this show at the Cedar, I know you mentioned you have some shows coming up, some backyard shows, some shows out of the city. You mentioned Eau Claire. What shows? How's your summer? Let's talk about Bad Posture Club's summer 2022. Other than this show at the Cedar Cultural Center, tomorrow. That's Thursday night with Sprig of That and the Boston Imposters. And did you say Bad Posture Club plays first tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So doors at 7, music at 7:30. But what's next for Bad Posture Club?
Next is a show on Saturday, July 9th at the Red House concert. So that one is a backyard show. And you can get tickets on their website, I think, redhouseconcerts.com, or they have an Instagram account. We'll be playing that with the Nunnery, which we're really excited about.
Yeah, that's a great bill.
Yeah. Hopefully singing some songs with her, because we love to do some trio stuff with her voice. Yeah, and then the next show after that is in Eau Claire in the backyard of Jerica McGowl on Sunday, July 17th.
Also with the Nunnery.
Yeah.
We love to collaborate with her whenever we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she's one of my favorite artists in town. Her voice is amazing, but also just the way she arranges things.
Yeah.
It's just like I love the way she builds loops. And if you haven't seen the Nunnery, go check out the Nunnery. You're in for a treat. So I want to talk about this record you put out last year. Who did you work with on this, and how did you record this? Was this a project that started pre-pandemic, or was this for lack of a better word, a pandemic album that you kind of used to survive going through lockdowns and the uncertainty of the ground always shifting underneath us?
Well, a lot of the songs had been written like over a longer period of time, and then during, I feel like, sort of COVID winter, we decided that we wanted to make a record, and so put a lot of time into like arranging those songs that had been sort of like backlogged for a while. And we went to Chicago to Jam Deck Studios and we worked with Doug Malone, who's really fantastic person.
Yeah, he's a really sweet guy.
Really sweet and really helpful, and I feel like helped us kind of like hone in on things that we didn't even totally know we needed, like really brought stuff out that we were like searching for a couple of songs. And
the album was also quite live in the way it was recorded. We both Morgan played guitar, I played banjo, and we sang all at the same time, so nothing was tracked individually, which felt true to how we perform it and what we kind of want to bring to the recording process.
It really feels like you're just in the room. When you listen to that record, it's just like, oh, I'm just in, as if I was like at a house show, like an old barn. It's just like, oh, I'm just watching this band do this.
Yeah.
And it does capture that feeling. So I was curious on how it was recorded, and you definitely answered my question there. So looking forward, do you have anything? I know you're not working. You said you're not working on. Well, not you're working on stuff, but you're not. You don't want to release it just yet. Do you have any? If people like what they heard, where can they hear it again? Because I know streaming services are kind of a controversial topic. Do you have a preferred method? This is what I'm trying to say. Do you have a preferred method for people to go get this record? Would you rather them get a physical copy, or is there a place where they can stream it in a place that you prefer that isn't, a large conglomerate that, you're throwing pennies down the memory hole?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Bandcamp is our preferred way to like support musicians, and we have CDs and tapes. If you like a physical copy of a record, we'll send one to you, or if you're in Minneapolis, you can come pick it up from our porch. Or you can buy it there.
Yeah, or at shows too.
Or at shows. Yeah. Bandcamp is, I feel like, the most supportive of musicians. We appreciate that.
Perfect. Well, head to Bad Posture Club's Bandcamp if you're curious about listening to the rest of that record. If you're curious, if you like what you heard, check out that show at the Cedar Cultural Center. We have plenty of music on this mixtape left, but I don't know if we're going to have time to get to it all. So I'm going to post the Spotify link to this playlist, speaking of large conglomerates, underneath this video, and you can hear all the songs we played earlier and all the songs we're not going to have time to play, and they're not going to show up on the archived playlist later. So there's always that. So check out Bad Posture Club on Bandcamp. Up next, we're going to have some local artists releasing records, also some local artists playing some big events like Dusty's Days and the Undercurrents Art Anniversary. But first, we have this. Sometimes my brain just does not work.
We understand.
Yeah.
I think I stuck the landing, but there we go. There we go. Okay, so now we got that going. I'm gonna make sure I'm typing their name in here. So after this, I think we're gonna have time for only, or maybe not. No. Yeah, I think we'll have time for like one more talk break, which is just going to be it's usually when people are tuning in for the next program, because Democracy Now! Follows this program, so there's a lot of people who kind of like come in, and so it's usually a good time to just like hey, band name, and then just kind of replug events. So forgive me if I ask you probably the same question I've already asked you 3 times, just because it's a good time to do it. Last 10 minutes. Yeah. Statistically, more people tune in. So that's what's going to happen the next talk break. But until then, we actually are kind of running out of time. Like, we have 10 minutes left, and I do have to kind of be on my game for the transition, just because that is a show I will get phone calls of just like, where is it? Why do you keep changing the schedule? Stop changing this. It's just like, no, I'm just late, I swear. So that's what's gonna happen happen there. But in the meantime, yeah, just 10 minutes left. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate when artists take the time to just do these, because I know how time consuming and awkward these things can be, just because it's like, I don't know. I like doing the vid chat. Like I think even after we figure out the whole COVID thing, I think I'm just gonna keep doing the vid chats, because then you don't have to like wake up and get your parking validated and like, because sometimes I will admit we can't always validate parking, and then it's just like, okay, I just, I guess I'll go to hard times to make parking parking worth my time. And it's just like, it just becomes a whole ordeal, and it's like way easier to do this from the comfort of your own home rather than so thank you for doing the vid chat. I know how weird these things can be.
No, it's great. We really appreciate the support, and I think it's so special, like what you do. I really love the idea of curating playlists. Like hearing all of my favorite songs on the radio feels so special.
It's really fun.
Yeah, like, especially for me, the French Fries Are Magical song. I don't know if you've heard of Des Arc, but that song in particular gives me goosebumps, and just listening to it was like, this is so sweet.
Des Arc, I do have a Des Arc story. Des Arc played in my basement once. What? Way back in the day. And because we ran a venue where we would like throw house parties, but we had a pirate radio station, so we would broadcast these house parties. And because of that, a local mover and shaker who kind of like was like a promoter, but also worked at the music college in town. He was hip to a lot of things. So like sometimes our basement would just be like the landing zone for artists that like, it's just like, what do you mean you aren't playing in Minneapolis? They're like, we couldn't find a gig. He's just like, I'm going to get you a gig. And a lot of times he would bring us like these really cool touring artists.
Wow.
And I was just like, it's just these kids basically. He's like, trust me, like just these kids have this whole like setup, like they're recording everything. And like, there's like and people would come.
Yeah.
One of the artists he got like before, like she was just touring solo.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was awesome. But like, I remember that set being like, oh, I need to pay attention. Like, this is going to be an artist that's like, this is the last time this artist is probably playing a basement in this state. Like,
right.
Ever again. Like, it was just one of those shows. And, like, and normally we'd like set up a stage, and like, she just kind of did her own thing. Like, just kind of like walked through the crowd, and it was awesome. Like, but I always like, I loved her, like the personality she puts in her writing. And it was just funny because like, at a house show, like you don't really get song titles too much. So like following her career, it's just I love the fact that there is a song called French Fries Are Magic, because
totally
they are. And also like, I feel like June was a lot, and you have to like revert back to those things where, or at least for me, when I'm going through a lot, I have to almost like get back to the just simple things you're grateful for, where it's just like, okay, what is something that definitely does not suck? And a lot of times like it is like, well, French fries are pretty great. I'm glad glad I can, live in a world where I have French fries on demand. And it just is like a necessary thing to stay sane. But yeah, it's first and last time since I've seen Des Arc. And I don't even know if is that project still active?
No, she's taken a huge break from music. Just got like so tired of touring and like hustling, and she's doing pottery now. And
good for her.
I know, I'm super proud of her.
Because like honestly, she hustled for a while.
Yeah.
I remember, because like anyone who played in the basement, I would try to keep tabs on.
Yeah.
And like that, like I think she released maybe 5 more things since I maybe more, because that was like, I don't want to show my age too much here, but like that was at least 10 years ago.
Yeah, that makes
by
sense.
this point,
Right.
like 2012
Yeah.
at the 2010 at like the earliest, but like I want to say that was like 2012, 2013, and yeah, I mean it is a grind. It's like the kind of, like, I still keep up with some of the artists who played back then, and a lot of them are like still doing it, but a lot of them are still doing it just as hard as they did it back then, where it's just like they are like posting like TikToks of just like, yep, sleeping in my car, and it's just like, oh man, like part of me is just like, yeah, Godspeed, like,
Right.
bless you for doing this. Like, this is like, we like it's like I'm glad you're out there taking it easy for all us sinners, you know.
Yeah.
like that's, we need that. But like, it also is, if you're not, it's not that like being built for it, but like if you're not insane enough
Yeah.
want to do it,
Yeah.
it does become a grind, like a really, like, where it's just like, is this rewarding anymore thing? And I do think you need, like, it needs to be elastic. Like, you need time to be stationary to kind of miss it in a way. Because like every time I come back from the road, I'm immediately like by the end of it, I'm just like, oh, I'm so tired. I just want to go home and like do this. And then as soon as you get home, you're like, I gotta go to work. Oh man, I hate this. I want to go back out there. And then as soon as you're back out there, you're like, oh, we're already late. We're already like, why do I like doing this? Like, I'm just stressed out all the time. I'm behind on deadlines. It's like, oh, I'm not even sure the car's working anymore. And then like you get home again, and the process is just like, now I want to go back. I want to go. So like there is a thing, but like it can just utterly take the life out of you. And also the music business like will break your heart like 6 ways to Sunday. Like there are so many ways to just like lose your faith in this industry, humanity, whatever, you know. And I get it. I totally, like, the fact that you can just find something, it's just like, and pottery sounds relaxing. We only have a few minutes, so we're gonna play us out and just kind of talk over this track real quick. So, so if you're just tuning in, this is Green Blue, and oh, there we go. Okay. I can't tell if that was my headphones or, but this is Green Blue, and they have a release show this weekend at Palmer's. And today was a mixtape I made for Bad Posture Club. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a blast talking to you. I love the sound of this record, and you have a great bill tomorrow night at the Cedar Cultural Center. If you have anything you'd like the listeners to know about before we get going, what would it be? What should listeners know about Bad Posture Club before we get into Democracy Now?
Well, I just want to say thank you to you for having us.
Absolutely. And thanks for coming on.
Yeah, we would love to see you at the show at the Cedar or some other show down the line. We're on the internet. You can find us there.
Perfect. Well, check out Bad Posture Club at the Cedar Cultural Center tomorrow. Check out their Bandcamp and check out their upcoming shows, because they might be playing at a venue or backyard near you. This is Green Blue. The release show is at Palmer's. Next week, I'm going to be talking with Sleeping Jesus, and stay tuned for Democracy Now. Fresh Air Community Radio is KFAI FM Minneapolis.
St. Paul, online and archived at kfai.org. It's where
Is the robot going to do my job for me?
The viewpoints
Yes.
expressed in
Okay.
this
Well,
program
maybe
are
not. I don't know. I just. This is always nerve-wracking. Is like whether or not. Okay. There it is. There it is. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I would love to come to the Cedar, but I have to work at the Turf Club that night because that is kind of the musician's curse. If I'm not playing a show, I work at a few clubs in town, and I end up usually working shows. So it's kind of my curse, and it's also why I try to plug as much stuff because I don't get to see many shows, but I can help promote your show. So there's that compromise, but I hope it's great. It's an excellent bill. Sprig of that is just, they're like, yeah, they're just a good experience to just like sit and like take in good music.
Yeah.
But I hope to at least see you at something this summer. So like, keep sending me stuff, keep me in the loop, and I'll hope to get to something.
Cool.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hope the show tomorrow goes well. I'm gonna click the end broadcast button here because I have to get to a rehearsal, and I gotta make sure. I just gotta make sure I'm like studied up on the material. So now that Democracy Now! Is on, I'm gonna sign off. But good to see you, and I hope to see you in person sooner than later.
Yeah,
Same.
totally.